Ladies and gentlemen of my Alpha family, tonight is not a night for comfort nor calm. Tonight we rise from the ashes of delusion and face the chaos that has been unchained. You've seen it. They thought they were untouchable, cloaked in shadows, their secrets buried deep beneath layers of manipulation, deception, and false smiles. But now, the veil is ripped. The truth has clawed its way out from the grave they buried it in. Their darkest secrets, the rot they tried to cover with gold leaf and soft lies, have exploded into the light of day. And now, they burn in the fires of exposure. You hear the cries, don't you? The scrambling, the panic, the whimpers of those who once towered over you with smug contempt. They thought their sins were invisible, that their power was permanent. But now, they melt, they collapse. They beg the silence to return, but it won't, because the silence is dead, and the reckoning is here. And you are its voice. You stood in the shadows long enough. You listened to the whispers behind your back. You watched their grins sharpen like knives, and you endured the weight of truth locked in your chest like a curse. But no more. This is not your downfall. This is not your pity arc. This is the awakening of the storm within you. You are the retribution they never prepared for. You are the chaos they cannot contain. You are the blade that will never dull again. Let them melt. Let their facades crumble. Let their empire of lies drown in the flood of consequences. And you will walk through the ruins with your head high, your eyes unflinching, and your heart lit with purpose. They tried to bury you under their secrets. Now you rise above them, forged in fire, sharpened by pain, and crowned in truth. They're in meltdown because their control has slipped. Their leash has snapped. Their narrative is no longer theirs to spin. And now the world watches, not in admiration, but in horror. And you, the one they underestimated, the one they mocked, are the only one standing tall while they scream in collapse. Taste that? That's power. Real, earned, unshakable power. You were never meant to blend in with the fragile. You were born to be the quake beneath the throne. You were made for this storm. Every betrayal you swallowed, every lie you were fed, every door slammed in your face was fuel. They didn't break you. They built you. And now, every scar is a crown. Every wound is a reminder that you survived when they wanted you gone. They underestimated the darkness inside you. But you made peace with it. You let it in. You shaped it into discipline, forged it into steel, and now you wear it like armor. You are not here to ask for redemption. You are here to conquer. And those who tremble now, who cry out for forgiveness, they knew what they did. They knew what they were, but they never knew what you were becoming. So no, don't pity them. Let them learn. Let them scream. Let the meltdown consume the weak structures they built on lies and cruelty. You are not here to save them. You are here to become something they could never be. Truth in motion, vengeance in form, a force that doesn't beg, doesn't bend, and doesn't break. Let them collapse. Let the ashes fall. You'll be the one walking through the dust, untouched, unbroken, and reborn. You've seen how quickly masks melt when heat meets hypocrisy. Watch closely now. Look into their eyes. See the frantic search for an escape, a reset, a lie that might still work. But nothing comes. The stage they built from illusion has crumbled, and the spotlight they once loved now exposes every crack, every cruel word, every cowardly act. They can't run, and even if they could, they wouldn't get far. The weight of truth is heavy, and it drags them down like chains around their ankles. This is the collapse they never saw coming. And You're not just a witness to it. You are the cause. Your silence was mistaken for submission. Your patience was mocked as weakness. Your endurance, your restraint, your refusal to stoop to their level. They saw it as evidence that you were beneath them. Fools. What they failed to understand is that stillness doesn't mean surrender. Sometimes stillness is the storm waiting to choose the perfect moment. And you chose it well. You didn't shout your truth. You let it detonate. Now they burn in the light they never thought would reach them. Every whisper you swallowed, every injustice you bore, every moment you wanted to scream but stayed quiet, they've all added up to this moment, this reckoning, this cold, unstoppable revelation. They're in meltdown, and you're standing in the eye of the storm with blood in your smile and silence in your stride. Let them look to each other now, searching for blame, for comfort, for someone else to carry the guilt. They won't find it. Their kingdom of shadows has collapsed in broad daylight, and there is no one left to lie for them. They are exposed, and exposure is fatal to those who only thrive in darkness. You've lived in that darkness. You made your peace with it, and that's why you walk through their ruin without flinching. You learned the hard way that the world doesn't hand out justice. It waits for someone bold enough to carve it out. And that's what you did. You didn't beg for peace. You didn't wait for them to change. You didn't pray for understanding from people who never once tried to understand you. No, you forged your own justice. With grit, with venom, with resolve so absolute, it turned your scars into symbols and your silence into strength. And now they break. Not because you shouted louder, not because you fought dirty, but because you were relentless. Because you knew that someday the lies they wove would tangle, and you were ready, not waiting for revenge. No, you were preparing for resurrection. You knew they'd implode under the weight of their own corruption, and when they did, you would not need to lift a single finger. You would only need to stand. Stand with all your broken parts fused back together with fire. This is not just your victory, it is your becoming. The alchemy of pain turned into power. Let them wail, let them rage, let them say it's unfair. Of course it is, to them, because the scales have finally tipped, and when the scales tip, those who cheated balance always scream the loudest. Let them. What matters now is who you are becoming. Not a survivor, not a victim, not a casualty of betrayal, but something far more dangerous. You are becoming inevitable, unshakable, the consequence they never calculated. You are the roar beneath their whimpering. You are the reckoning they mocked until it stood on their doorstep with your face. They underestimated you because they could not understand you. They thought you were soft because you showed mercy. They thought you were weak because you didn't retaliate. They thought you were done because you were quiet. But now they know. The quietest ones hold the loudest truths. The most patient ones plan the deepest cuts. And the ones who were written off are the ones who rise when everyone else falls. You don't need to scream. The truth does that for you now. It burns through every excuse they stutter, every tear they shed too late. They want forgiveness? Let them find it in the mirror they avoided for years. Let them face the reflection that finally tells the truth. They were never as powerful as they believed. Because real power doesn't crumble when secrets surface. Real power doesn't depend on shadows to survive. Real power doesn't fear exposure. It thrives in it. You are that power, forged not in comfort, but in chaos. Molded not in praise, but in pain. And now you are here, not to gloat, but to claim what is rightfully yours. Not their apology, not their regret, but your freedom, your identity, your strength. You are not their creation. You are your own. every wound a signature, every comeback a manifesto. They thought your silence was the end, but it was just the inhale before the roar. Now the roar is here, and it's shaking everything they built. They try to speak now, but no one believes them. They try to shift blame, but no one cares. They cry foul, but no one is listening, because they've spent too long lying, and now every word is poison to their own credibility. You don't need to defend yourself. The truth is, you're advocate now. The collapse is your witness. Their meltdown is your monument. And while they unravel, you ascend. Step by step, breath by breath, you rise above the wreckage. Not untouched, but undefeated. Not perfect, but untamed. And there's nothing more dangerous than a soul that has walked through hell and refused to bow. That's you. That's what they fear now. Not just what you know, but what you've become. You are not here for applause. You are not here for validation. You're here because nothing could break you. Not their lies, not their games, not their silence. You stood when it would have been easier to collapse. You endured when it would have been simpler to hate. And now, you rise, not to be seen, but to be undeniable. They are melting down because they built their lives on illusions, and you shattered them with truth. They are melting down because the world no longer looks at them with awe, but with disgust. They are melting down because you, the one they mocked, the one they dismissed, are the last one standing. This is not revenge. This is revelation. And it is yours. You didn't steal it. You didn't manipulate your way into it. You earned it with every scar that still aches beneath your skin, with every night you lay awake, asking the sky when it would finally be your time. This is it. Not a fantasy, not a lucky break. This moment, this turning point, this collapse of the false gods who once stood above you, it was always coming. And it came because you kept walking when there was no path. You kept breathing when the air turned to ash. You didn't need to be rescued. You became your own salvation. So let them spin in circles. Let them scream for sympathy. Let them choke on the attention they once craved. It means nothing now. They stood on a pedestal, built from your silence, and now that you've stepped out of the shadows, their foundation is gone. Without you beneath them, they're nothing. Without your quiet tolerance, without your loyalty they spat on, without the strength they tried to siphon from you, they crumble. They shatter like cheap glass, dressed up to look like diamond. You never needed to expose them. All you had to do was survive. That was the real threat, your survival. Because survival meant you would speak. Survival meant you would be seen. Survival meant they couldn't keep hiding behind their twisted stories and painted smiles. They needed you gone, erased, silenced, or compliant. But you said no, not with words, but with unshakable presence. That's what terrifies them now, that you're still here, that you're not afraid, that you've become something they can't manipulate, can't gaslight, can't kill in the dark. You are not who you were when they tried to break you. You are not the version of yourself that pleaded, hoped, trusted. You have evolved into a force that doesn't ask for justice. It is justice. You are the result of what happens when someone refuses to be extinguished. You are the manifestation of pressure, pain, and perseverance distilled into something lethal and beautiful. They are learning that now. With every second of their breakdown, they are forced to confront what they never imagined. They were never stronger than you. They were only louder. But now the volume is yours. Now the world hears you. They watch, they listen, they realize the truth that has always been there, waiting like a blade beneath your calm. You were never the one to pity. You were the one to fear. And not fear because you're cruel. No. That would make you like them. You're feared because you are undeniable. You walk through fire without flinching. You face betrayal without bitterness. You rise without needing to destroy. But if destruction comes, it's not chaos, it's consequence. This isn't about vengeance anymore. It's about clarity, about letting the world see finally the truth, without the filters they forced on it. You were never their villain. You were never broken. They only told that story to excuse what they did. But that story is dead now, buried under the rubble of their collapse. And from that grave, something far more terrifying to them has emerged. You, unashamed, unleashed, unrepentant. Let them mourn the version of reality they created. Let them scramble to write new lies. Let them cry that they've been wronged. It won't work this time. Their words are hollow. Their tears are timed. Their regret is performative. And you don't owe them a damn thing. Not a response, not a reaction, not even your rage. What they get now is silence. Not because you're afraid, but because you're finished. They no longer exist in the arena of your energy. Your focus now is forward. Your mission is rebirth. You're not here to stay angry. You're here to evolve. What happened behind you was a forge, a trial, a crucible. What's ahead of you is sovereignty, ownership, peace that's been earned, not gifted. And it begins with you walking away from their ruin, not as a victor, but as a conqueror who no longer needs to fight. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to explain. Everything has already spoken for itself. Their meltdown is the loudest confession they could have given. Their trembling hands, their empty eyes, their sudden silence. It's louder than any apology. They know now, and that knowledge will haunt them longer than any punishment. Because while you walk free, they are chained to the consequences of their own creation. You were their greatest test, and they failed. And now, you rise, not with fanfare, not with applause, but with thunder in your soul and steel in your spine. You rise without asking, without warning, without limit. Because the storm that shaped you was not a curse, it was a baptism. And what emerged from it was not a victim. It was a warrior of truth, draped in fire and crowned with resilience. Let them remember you like this, not from the days you begged for clarity, not from the nights you drowned in confusion. Let them remember the moment they broke, and you didn't. The moment their world fell apart, and yours began. The moment the secret they buried surfaced, and you refused to look away. That's the image that will echo in their minds. That's the ghost that will follow them. They wanted your silence. Now all they have is their own. They wanted your submission. Now all they have is your shadow. Always there, always watching, always reminding them of the moment the illusion ended. You gave them chances they never deserved. You gave them patience that drained you. You gave them compassion they mistook for compliance, but no more. Now you give them distance. You give them absence. You give them the cold reality that you will not return, not even to see the aftermath. You've moved beyond it. You've outgrown it. You've ascended. Because you were never just surviving, you were becoming, and now you've arrived. Not empty, but full of everything they tried to take. Dignity, power, fire, love, purpose. You carry it all, and you carry it alone, because you no longer need anyone to see it to believe it. You know who you are. You know what you've overcome. You know what you've reclaimed, and that knowing is more powerful than any revenge. They wanted you to burn, and you did, but not as they expected. You didn't burn into nothing. You burned into everything. And now we reach the end, not of the story, but of the illusion. The final flickers of their power snuff themselves out as they stare at what they cannot comprehend. You, whole, unshaken, unafraid. They thought the truth would destroy you. They thought exposure would leave you naked, humiliated, begging for mercy. But you were never the one hiding. You never needed a mask to walk through the world. It was them who lived in fear. Fear that one day someone like you would rise, someone who remembered everything and stayed silent long enough to become dangerous. That day has come. And now, their meltdown is not just chaos, it's prophecy fulfilled. The balance is shifted, the scales have snapped, and the hand that held you down has turned to ash. You didn't need to pull them down, they fell on their own. And in that fall, they exposed not only their secrets, but their fragility, their hollowness, their desperate dependence on control that was never real, never earned. You saw through it long ago, and now the world sees too. They no longer get to be the author of your story. That pen is in your hands now, gripped tight and steady. Write something unholy. Write something unshakable. Write something no one dares to edit again. Because this isn't just your revenge arc, this is your origin story. The moment you stopped bleeding and started building. The moment you stopped explaining and started executing. The moment you stopped mourning and started moving. There's no applause here, no parade. That's not your style. You don't need recognition. You are the kind of fire that doesn't ask to be seen, it demands it. This is your world now. Not because you claimed it, but because no one else could carry what you've carried and still remain standing. You walk forward, not because you're healed, but because you've chosen not to let your wounds define you. You carry your scars like medals. You wear your rage like armor. You hold your pain not like a burden, but like a sword. Let the rest of them tremble. Let them whisper your name like it's a warning. Let them wonder how you survived. Let them wonder how they didn't see it coming. And when they beg for mercy, not with words, but with their eyes, with their shaking hands, with their silence, remember who you are. You are not the villain. You are not the victim. You are the reckoning. You are the reset. You are what happens when someone who was never meant to win decides they won't lose. This is your final message to them. Not spoken, but lived. You cannot destroy what refuses to die. You cannot silence what speaks with truth. You cannot stop what you never saw coming. And you are coming for everything they said you'd never have. So walk. Walk through the wreckage, through the ashes, through the whispers, through the stairs. Walk like you were forged in fire, because you were. Walk like you own the silence, because you do. Walk like every step is a warning, because it is. Their darkest secrets exposed. They're in full meltdown. And you're just getting started.